to what doesn't justify it. The kind of lie that Rebekah and Jacob engage in. Who does this further? It furthers them. It is all about them. And does it harm people? Absolutely. It harms Isaac. It harms Esau. And so we see here the beginnings of an outline as to under what circumstances we can't lie. And under what circumstances can we lie? If we take the Torah at face value, when your life is on the line, as Isaac believes his life is on the line, is it appropriate to lie? Absolutely. As I mentioned, we are going to be remembering Kristallnacht on November 9th in but a few days. And here's a situation where you could have lied. If someone came to your door and said, "Do you have any Jews in your house?" and you did, guess what? Lying would have been perfectly appropriate under those circumstances. Not a question. But the rabbis take it even further. And they'll note that, you know what? It doesn't have to be so dramatic and extreme. It's not just under circumstances where our lives are threatened that we can lie. Let us reflect back but a few parshas, a few Torah readings, where God announces to Sarah and Abraham that Sarah's going to bear a child, and Sarah's reaction is to laugh. And why does she laugh? She says, I am to bear a child when I am so old, no longer in the way of women, and my husband is old too. And then, when God talks to Abraham, he says, why did Sarah laugh, saying, that she's so old? What does God leave out? Sarah's comment about Abraham being so old. And the rabbis are stunned. The God of truth, whose seal is truth, who causes truth to spring forth from the earth, this God lies? To which the answer is yes. But let us understand, why does God lie in this situation? Is God protecting God's self? No. Is God furthering? Is God going to benefit from this? Is this for God's benefit? No. Here God lies for the very simple reason of protecting another human being's feelings. And in doing so, nobody is harmed. Nobody is injured or hurt because of this. And so our tradition presents us with a wonderful matrix through which to understand and live out this essential quality of truth. To tell the truth is hard and difficult and challenging, and we are tempted to lie. But if we lie in order to protect ourselves or further ourselves and our own goals and our own gains, such a lie is not accepted. But to lie to save our life, sure. And then beyond that, to protect another human being's feelings and their dignity and their respect when no one is harmed, that is considered to be appropriate. Rabbi Silver and I were talking yesterday, and she quoted to me a verse from Isaiah. It actually comes from chapter 40, verse 4. And it says, V'haya he'akov l'mishur. It says that in the future, he'akov, the crooked will be made straight. It should not be lost on any of us that the root of crooked and the root of the name Yaakov are in fact the same. And the rabbis, as Rabbi Silver was telling me, the rabbis picking up on that say, and when does this happen in the future? When is the crooked made straight? When is truth allowed to live? And the rabbis' answer is, when the Messiah comes. Now, does this mean that the rabbis do not want us to struggle towards the truth until then? No. Is this an invitation to think, when the Messiah comes, truth will be taken care of, I don't have to worry about it? No. What the rabbis acknowledge here is the difficulty and the struggle all of us have telling the truth. Now, I'll grant you, I don't think many of us lie on a day-to-day basis in quite as grand and dramatic fashion as Rebekah and Jacob lied to Isaac and Esau. Most of our lies are actually pretty simple ones. But I would suggest that most of our lies are also not out to protect other people's feelings. No. Most of the time, most of us lie. They're small ones, petty ones almost. But we lie to protect ourselves. We lie to protect ourselves because we're fearful. We're fearful of what people will think of us if they know the full truth of who we are. I'll give you but one small example. How many of you have been late somewhere and blamed the traffic? Okay? If you don't raise your hand, okay, please see me afterwards. Because I need to talk with you, because I am too fascinated as to how someone living in Los Angeles could not blame traffic for being late. However, we know that while that might be true some of the time, and while traffic is really quite horrendous in this part of the world, there are many times when we have used that as an excuse. Why have we used something so silly as traffic as an excuse for being late? What is it that we're worried about? We're worried about how we will look in the eyes of the others for coming in late. We're worried about what they'll think of us. We're worried about what they think of us if we said, oh, you know what? I really just couldn't get here on time. I had so much other stuff that was really important to do. And how they might feel about being told such a thing. Or we worry about how they'll feel if we just say, oh, you know, I totally forgot. And how they'll take in what that says about our reflections on them. My friends, this is but one small example. I promise you, if you but take the next week to pay attention to what you say, you will find that all of us are liars. All of us tell small lies on a weekly, if not daily basis to protect ourselves from what we fear. And these lies, you might say, they're so small, does it matter? To which I'll come back to you and say, it absolutely matters. Truth is a core foundational block upon which society builds itself. For if there is no truth, there can be no trust between people. And if there is no trust between people, there can be no relationship. There can only be an exchange, but no real commitment and connection to the other. Truth is essential for such connections to exist. And therefore, we don't have to become truth seekers, but we all need to work on becoming truth tellers. And in learning to tell the truth and practicing each and every moment of our lives, and understanding that while there are those precious few occasions when lying might be appropriate, they are precious and they are few. And because of that, we cannot use them as excuses to cover up our own lying out of our own fear. Rather, we must use each day and each act of speech to practice this precious virtue. For without being truth tellers, there can be no life. Such is captured in the story that is told of the Maharal of Prague, 16th century sage, who is rumored to have made a golem, this clay figure of huge proportions that was built to protect the Jews. And how did the Maharal of Prague bring this lump of clay to life? According to tradition, he carved the words Emet into the creature's forehead. For you see, truth is not just God's seal. Truth does not spring out of the earth. Truth is not just one of God's foundational qualities. According to our tradition, truth and truth-telling is life-giving. May we use the next week to enhance our own lives and become truth-tellers that are worthy of our tradition. Shabbat Shalom.